Hey guys, I'm Nat. This is George. We're with the Keeper's Hive. Today we'd like to take a couple of minutes and answer some of the questions and concerns that have been coming across our website over the last month or so.
All right, Nat and George. So one question a lot of people have had is, does this make things more complicated? What's the point? It's another product that is special equipment, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think the question kind of boils down to what's the real utility of this product? How does it help the average backyard beekeeper?
Well, number one, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. The Langstroth hive has been the most successful method of managing bees that has come along in the last 130 years. And it is an extremely efficient way to manage bees. But it does come with a certain amount of physical demands in order to manage this hive. And what we've tried to do is take the basic design of Langstroth along with the same frames, the same boxes, and try to figure a way to make the physical demands of this hive less. And basically, that's what we did. If you need to go in and check your brood chamber, you don't have to take the entire hive apart. We've made the brood chamber and the queen accessible simply by opening a door and looking inside.
Yeah, and a lot of people, and we've heard the concerns, was there a problem that existed before this hive came out, or did you make this hive and now looking for a problem? And there's no doubt in my mind that if you ask most beekeepers what's the downside of the Langstroth hive, they'll tell you lifting, right? So
especially in the summer when you got that bee suit on and it's 100 degrees outside, it's pretty demanding.
And I learned the Demery method for swarm control before we invented this hive. And I always thought, wow, such an effective way to prevent swarming. You prevent swarming, you're going to make more honey, but it was so labor intensive. And there's no doubt that our hive just makes that ability to perform the Demery so much easier, and then you get all the benefits. You get the more honey, you don't get swarms in your neighbors' yards. So I hear the skepticism out there, but having used both hives in relatively large numbers now, I have no doubt that the Keeper's Hive is helping with a problem of not only how heavy it is to lift, but how hard it is to do routine hive management on your hive. And we, I think, have given people an option to do both a lot easier. One of the most frequent comments and questions that we've seen on our videos so far is the concern about the space that the hive gives the colony to exist in. So I think people are thinking that the colony is just going to get bigger or not, or the hive is not going to be able to accommodate the growth of the colony. And then from that concern, they then have concerns about swarming or about squishing bees or where are they going to put all the honey. But I think it comes down to this concern of, since we're using, at least in the one queen hive, nukes as supers, the space is going to be smaller. So the first thing I always like to point out is that a crowded hive is generally a healthy hive. So you want your bees in your hive to be wall to wall bees. So the bees like it like that. They're just healthier like that. So we do want our hives crowded for sure. The second point is that, once you add the supers, the honey supers, and you have the exchange box, you have the spacer box, and you have a brood box, you do have a pretty large cavity for the bees to exist in. And lastly, though I can't explain this as scientifically as some of you may want, I think the bee colony sort of adapts or recognizes somehow how big the hive is, and therefore controls the population, or controls the amount the queen's laying, or the amount of brood they're making to fill that box, especially sort of once swarm season is done. So I hear the concern. I sort of, as a beekeeper that's managed a lot of hives as 10 frame Langstroths that have been very stacked very high, I get the concern, but I'm seeing full hives of bees, but I'm not seeing colonies that are just sort of exploding out of the hive that they are living in. So one of the claims that we make about this hive is it's Langstroth without the lift, and we believe that. We believe that our innovation definitely has all the benefits of Langstroth, but with a whole lot less lifting. But we've had people question that come on, there's some lifting involved, and so
I've had people come up to us and say, well, I have to lift the boxes when we go to harvest honey. Well, I say, well, yeah, you can do it that way, but heck, when my wife and I harvest our honey, we take an empty box with us, and I remove the frames of honey one at a time, shake the bees, and I hand them to my wife, and when the top box is empty, I take that off and begin again on the second box. So I never really do lift an entire box. I just lift one frame at a time.
And I think when we say Langstroth without the lift, there really is no lift to inspect the brood chamber.
Correct.
To do your management of swarm control, to inspect your brood nest, to do your mite count,
Your day-to-day
to
maintenance.
your critical maintenance of your hive is no lift. Yes, there's a little bit of lift when it comes to honey harvesting and moving some boxes around, but generally hive maintenance is no lift. And I know that seems hard to believe, but get excited about it, honestly, because it's said, like, there's two types of beekeepers. One, a group of beekeepers with sore backs, and a bunch of beekeepers that are going to get sore backs. So, get excited that you can use all your Langstroth equipment and manage bees in a Langstroth style hive without the lift.
One of the other questions that we get sometimes is, do we squish bees when we're putting this hive back together after we've done our examination? Well, actually, no, we don't. I mean, there's always a few bees that are going to get in the way anytime that you're examining a Langstroth hive. But here's the thing. Our bottom box on this hive, the single queen hive, is an 8-frame Langstroth box. Now, in an 8-frame box, if you folks are familiar with 8-frame boxes, there's usually a little extra room after you've installed your 8th frame. What we do in our box, we use a follower board that takes up a lot of that extra room, along with giving you the opportunity of, when you start a new hive and you don't want to use all 8 frames, you can use 4 or 5 frames, whatever you want, and use that follower board to take up that extra space to make management of that small brood cluster a little bit more efficient. Anyway, when you remove your frames to examine and to find your queen, the first thing you'll do is pull out your follower board, and that gives you plenty of room to move your first frame back, take it out, put it in your quiet box, and continue to do so until you have found your queen and you know that everything's good. Now, once you've found your queen, you're going to place her back in the box in the same position where she just came out of, and carefully slide that back. As you re-add each frame, you carefully slide it back. You're not crushing bees at all. And then after you put your 8th frame back in the box, then you can go ahead and add in your follower board and close up. Once you have all of your 8 frames placed back into the hive and you have replaced your follower board, the last part to reassemble on your hive are the frame guards, which go in on each side. Now sometimes the bees are out on the ends of the frames, and what we usually do is just take our smoker and smoke the 2 sides, and the bees usually move in away from it, and that way you can put your frame guards back on without hurting any bees. I can't sit here and tell you that you're never going to squish a bee. Sometimes it happens, but does this hive contribute to more than normal? Absolutely not.
So one of the exciting things about the comments is we're getting comments from all over the United States and all over the world, and a lot of people are checking the hive out, and we're getting some questions about how the hive will perform in different areas of the country and of the world. And we've largely tested these hives in southeast Pennsylvania, so a lot of our experience is related to zone 6A weather, but you have to remember that this is essentially a single brood chamber Langstroth hive, which are used all over the world. So the way you manage this hive, depending on swarm control, overwintering, and honey harvesting, will be largely dependent on how you manage your traditional Langstroth hive in your area. We recognize how we manage the hive in southeast Pennsylvania is probably going to be somewhat different than how you're managing the hive in Canada, or how you're managing the hive in Georgia, or in the UK, or even in Australia. So we really are confident that being so close to a typical Langstroth hive, it will work in your area. But we realize that we may not know the fine details of hive management in certain areas of the country and of the world. We've had lots of comments and questions about how to overwinter the keeper's hive. We have made a video about overwintering this hive that you can find on our website. Basically, the keeper's hive, to overwinter it, you would overwinter it similar how you'd overwinter your traditional Langstroth hive in your geography. So if you're using insulation along the sides of the hive, you would do the same insulation on the keeper's hive. If you don't use insulation where you're at, because it's not that cold, then don't use it. You have the ability to overwinter in a single deep, which has become very popular nowadays, or you have the ability to overwinter with supers of honey above the single brood chamber. So again, it's pretty flexible to be able to match how you would overwinter your traditional Langstroth hive, to take those same concepts and strategies and management strategies and apply it to the keeper's hive. We've had also some questions come up about different mite treatments in the keeper's hive. We realize that we still need to make a video overviewing mite management in the keeper's hive, but in brief, every mite treatment, commercial mite treatment that's available, works in the keeper's hive. I know some people manage or are currently managing horizontal hives, and in horizontal hives you do have to be a little bit careful about using formic acid and Apogard, a thymol based product in those hives. But with our hive design and the roof design, those products work very well. So whether or not you're going to go organic miticides with oxalic acid, formic acid, thymol, or Hopguard based products, or if you're going to go a synthetic miticide such as Apovar, they all work highly effectively in the keeper's hive. And since it is a single brood chamber hive, the effectiveness may even be better in the keeper's hive than a traditional Langstroth hive.
One of the first concerns, and a lot of people you have justifiably, is how do we handle propolis within the hive? Our hive, in order to work, have to be able to slide frames back and forth and in and out of the hive. So how do you prevent it from being propolized? Well, it's very common knowledge. You can't stop a bee from propolizing. She's going to propolize just about anything she can walk on. But then we got thinking, what if she can't walk on it? Maybe that's how we keep this hive functioning through the season. So that's what we did. We redesigned it so that our frames set in a place up on top of the boxes, and it gives us the ability to cover those ends and keep them protected. Now, we do have a video on our website that you can go to, and we kind of show you this in detail. But basically what we've done is we've made what we call frame guards that sit over the tops of the ends of all the frames and prevent bees from being able to get anywhere near the ends. So consequently, when you open the hive and you want to do your examination, you can take the frame guards off, and the ends of the frames you will find clean. So that's how we did it. Take a look at our website and you'll see a little bit more detail about this.
One of the questions that that we've gotten on our videos is how high will the hives get during the nectar flow? I think that depends on your management, actually. I recommend having 2 or 3 honey supers above the exchange box on both the 1 queen and the 2 queen hive. Then the question is how often do you want to harvest those boxes? If you want a lot of honey, you're going to be pulling those boxes and extracting them maybe 2 or 3 times during the nectar flow. If you don't want a lot of honey, once the bees fill those boxes, the foragers will slow down, and you won't need to go higher than that. Now, with that said, you're more than you can stack 4 or 5 or 6 supers on both the 1 queen and 2 queen hives if that's what you want, because if the empty space is there, the bees will fill them up. But again, that becomes a little bit more difficult from a management standpoint when your hives are that tall. Again, if you're going to do that, we recommend strapping the hives and being safe for sure in how you take the supers off the hive.
Folks, I guess we're going to go for the day, but before we leave, I just want to take a minute, and George and I want to say thank you for all your write-ins, your comments, and your criticisms. Over the last 7 years, George and I have been working, trying to polish and improve this hive to a point where we know it works. We would not be where we are today without your help, without your looking at it, writing in comments, your questions, and your criticisms. That helps us polish what we think to be just the right mechanism for honeybee management. So keep them coming. Keep your comments, keep your criticisms, and keep your attaboys. We like them too. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.